Well, I'm certainly glad I'm not the one that just got pushed in the water. That's what we do. When you have an expensive TV show or podcast, you hire somebody to push in the water at the beginning of the show. No, I'm not doing that either. This is Dorothy Wilhelm. We are swimming upstream. And the reason we do that is that there are interesting people that you wouldn't meet any other way, and you sure won't hear about them on the 6 o'clock news. Now, this week, we have on Generation Gap, this is the show closest to my heart. On Generation Gap, we're going to be talking about how weddings have changed over the last, 70 years. Just because that's been a mirror of what the economy has been like and what people are like in general. So today we have with us my dear friend Ray Miller Still. He the very handsome RMS. Now notice the sunglasses. Well, how could you not notice the sunglasses? Now, Ray, I always say I didn't do it yet, but I'm going to say I am of the silent generation. And of course, you in choral speaking, everybody is going to say, are you kidding? She's never been silent a minute in her life. And it is true. But we were called the silent generation because we followed the rules and we didn't make waves, but we got over it. And so we'll be talking about what weddings were like when I was married. And they were very different than they are today. Now, my very handsome co-host, I don't know if I would have known you were very handsome if you hadn't put it up there.
I have to draw attention to it somehow, Dorothy.
Somehow, since you put up the title, I agree, you are very handsome. Kind of have a tropics explorer look about you. It looks like that's the strings to your tropic hat, which is some way over the back of your shoulders. Anyway, go ahead and try and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm a millennial. So, you're the silent generation. You follow the rules. I'm a millennial, and we don't follow the rules. But if you thought we were bad and obnoxious, you got to wait until Gen Z and Gen Alpha grow up.
And are they going to?
In some ways, they'll get older. Certainly, I don't know what growing up for them means. I know what growing up for me means, but I'm sure growing up was different. Had a different definition from your generation to Gen X to mine to theirs.
Now let's have 3 words about what growing up for you meant.
House, financial independence, traveling.
And you've achieved all those now.
Oh, I can't afford the travel.
Poor little thing. Well, you will. And now we have we've recently made a really special addition to our Generation Gap show. Our producer, Jason Falls, certainly came along at the right time because we have no budget, but but Jason is a different generation, and of course also very handsome. Jason, if you should want to put very handsome bearded, I would do that. Anyway, you represent Gen X, is that?
I do. Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in the early 70s and grew up in the 70s and 80s. So
now each of us probably thinks, I feel like our generation was way the best. And I think of us as, well, of course, I think of us as time travelers because we're coming from a place we can't ever go back to. But when the reason we picked weddings, well, actually, the reason we picked weddings is it was Ray's idea. He got to pick. I don't know why he got to pick, but he did. And he said weddings, and I said, well, let's look at how it shows where we all were, where the economy was, and everything. I keep thinking there's supposed to be a reason for this. So anyway, I get to go first because I'm in charge. And and I'm old in my. Do you know? This is how the economy has changed. I can't book gigs anymore more than a year in advance because the event planners all don't think I'll be here in a year.
Yeah.
I might not be. And the really terrible thing is, I do the same thing.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, it is, but I'm trying to work around. So.
Don't worry, we're all not going to be here next year.
Well, that's kind of how it's looking, isn't it? So anyway, so I was married in 1952. I think that was a very long time ago, and we were poor. It was okay because everybody was poor. It was at the end of the war. And so I had my dress made by a friend, and the whole wedding probably cost $70. I made for my bridesmaids. I know, isn't that just incredible? I cut down my prom dresses. I went to 3 proms in high school, had down the prom dresses, and they looked very nice. The thing was, and the wedding, I made the great mistake. See, everything was on very budget conscious.
Mhm.
I made this mistake. I chose my new husband rather promptly, and for no special reason, and so yeah, I made the mistake of inviting my boyfriend to be an usher because I was making the point that we were never really romantically engaged. It was just that we were good friends. Well, he was really mad. And so when all the people came in, he really didn't like my husband, figured why. And so when everybody who came to the wedding, he put on my side of the church, and only Roger's mother and father and sister were on the other side. And in the meantime, in Catholic churches, people can come in and say a prayer anytime, even if there's something going on or whatever. It's nice.
Oh, how rude.
No, it's not rude. See?
It's off to the side. It's on.
Yeah, but that's the way it is. No, it's okay. Believe me, trust me, it's all right.
Oh, I think my generation is far too anxious to walk in and be like, "Oh, I'm turning right around. I'll come back. I don't want to bother anyone."
Oh, okay. Now let me finish setting the scene. After all, anyway, so a little old Italian man came in to say the rosary, and my dear friend picked him up bodily and moved him into the family pew. So when I came down the aisle, there was this puzzled little man sitting. So that was a wedding in 1951 or 2, whatever it was. I've never been sure. Ray, you seem to have some thoughts about weddings in general.
Would you say that this little Italian man was moved by the Holy Spirit that day?
No, I think he was moved by, I would give him my friend's name, but he's still alive. And he's the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Wow. You got to repeat your question because I had that joke in my head.
So moved by the Holy Spirit, Ray he's going to describe the difference. And let's do this. Let's each set the scene for our own wedding, which was perfect. And then we'll see how things have changed since then. So, Ray?
Well, we had ours at Bastyr University's chapel, and it was gorgeous. There was a huge stained glass windows, very long hall, not hallway, obviously, but from the back door aisle. Yes, very long, very wide aisle. So there was like that procession actually took quite a lot of time, which I saw, but I didn't really expect. So I'm standing up there. I'm like, I'm standing up here, standing very still, which is hard for me. And watching my wife like walk 4 minutes. I was like, oh, okay. What was your
expression? What expression were you able to hold on your face for?
Oh, I was grinning like an idiot. couldn't wipe that smile off my face if I tried. And then all the pews were actually facing each other. So you had the aisle, and then all the pews were off to the side. So everyone was facing each other. We didn't have sides. Everyone kind of just separated where they wanted to go. So that did mean that the back row kind of had to do this diagonal look as opposed to looking straight on to us, which was kind of funny looking when I looked out there. There was a very big, very ornate altar behind us. I think it was kind of like that marbled green sort of deal. And then our pastor, who we've known for decades, he used to be my pastor and Catherine's youth group leader. Very bald man, wonderful guy. And he had this little black book that made him look very important and very official. But it had our vows in it. So all he needed to do was tip of the one side. I was like, I can read that and not look like I'm reading something or have to bring up a piece of paper. And we both wrote our own vows. And, you know, when we started doing the repetition, you know, like he's like, say this, repeat after me, you know, I, Ray Miller still, I, Ray Miller still. And then he, you know, he stops the repeating part where I have to repeat it, but I don't stop because I'm so nervous. Like I'm up there and I'm happy, but I'm also like, there's so many people behind me, like 100 or so, not too many, but I'm not, it's a crowd to me. So I just keep repeating him. No thoughts. I just keep repeating. He's like, no, you're done. You know, wife's in a beautiful dress. The bridesmaids were wearing like a deep blue. It was, yeah, wonderful bouquet. That's mine.
Well, that's it. It sounds lovely. We were, you know, processing it. It's beautiful.
Oh, and I was wearing, it was a morning wedding. I don't know when other people got married, but ours was a morning wedding, and I got to wear a traditional morning suit, which I would encourage everyone to look up because it's extremely handsome. My wife did veto the top hat that it comes with, but it has tails of a sort. So, you know, I had the morning suit. That was really cool.
So do you rent them?
Yes, I rented that one. Yeah, I wish I owned it. I really did. But no, unfortunately, again, even though some of our wedding was paid for, we did have to spend more than a little bit of our own money to do it. And since we're talking about the economy a little bit, if we got married today, our wedding would have looked completely different. It would have been much smaller, much less ornate, and probably Catherine would have rented. She wouldn't have rented her own wedding dress because that would have been extremely important to her if her kid wanted it. But it would have been different, and we almost definitely would not have gone. All of our money would have gone pretty much to our honeymoon. We still would have done the honeymoon going to New Zealand, but so much more of our money would have gone toward that.
Well, let's just say that's a good point. Is like for me, I know probably my wedding cost well under $100. How much do you figure yours would have been? Make up something, kid.
I don't want to think about it. That gives me financial anxiety.
Well, I'm
no, I mean,
get a feeling for, you know, economically how things have changed.
Yeah, okay, I'm 8, 9, upwards of 10,000. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably true. That's our kids ended up having to pay. Who are your? Well, they're older than you. Everyone is. But they ended up mostly paying for their own because we're Army. We don't have any money. So, Jason, dear, I understand there's a wedding in your past. Do you want to?
There is, and there's also a divorce in my past. So that means we definitely would have spent money very differently if we got married again today, because we probably wouldn't have gotten married today. But I was, my ex-wife and I married in the year 2000. For a little context there, we were in our late 30s, so we got married a little bit later than our parents' generation. And we also waited, a little bit longer to have kids than our parents' generation did as well. My mother's 20 years older than me. I'm 35 years older than my son, I think. But we got married. She was Catholic. I converted to Catholicism. We got married. Some similarities to Ray Miller's experience. Very long aisle in a beautiful ornate Catholic church here in Louisville. Obviously most people know and understand in the Catholic faith, the Godfather is an important figure in religious ceremonies. So my bride to be that day, her godfather was stuck in traffic in a thunderstorm. It was a Friday evening wedding, and he was 20 minutes late getting to the church. I was in the sacristy behind the altar, and no one came and told me what was going on. So for 20 minutes, I thought she had bailed and I wasn't getting married. Eventually someone came and told me what happened. It was a beautiful wedding. It was, kind of storybook, beautiful white dress. I had on a very handsome tuxedo. My family and her family all came together. There were probably 150, 250 people there. It was a beautiful ceremony, But I think this is endemic of at least my Gen X, I believe, probably has this maybe a little bit more than other generations. The most important part of the wedding, at least for me, was the reception, not the actual ceremony. And I probably spent as much, well, I didn't spend it. My in-laws spent as much money on our reception, Ray, as you probably did on your wedding, because the one thing that was the most important, and I offered to pay for it, but the one thing that was most important to me, and the one thing that's most important to Gen X folks, I think, is open bar. So we had an open bar at our reception and had a wonderful party, and it was fantastic. And that's the one part I would not change. That was enormously fun, and I have lots of stories to tell about it, including my mother's best friend finishing her champagne glasses and then throwing them against the brick walls.
Well,
an additional expense.
we don't do that. We like our champagne glasses. We still have ours. We bought 3 very ornate champagne glasses just in case one broke.
Nice.
And one did. One did. My friend accidentally put it down too hard about 6 years later and broke the stem. And for a while, I kept it on the shelf because she'd blush every time she walked by it.
Well, what about the reception? What was it like, and how expensive? We're keeping tabs on the money. How expensive?
Oh, I think it was several thousand for the reception. Let's see here. It was at an old schoolhouse, I think out in Bothell, Washington. And so brick building. They had their own like brewery right next door. So we got some of that. Very sunny. There were some outdoor like decks you can go on to, so you didn't have to always be inside for the dancing. You were able to very easily excuse yourself outside and get some fresh air. We have tons of pictures of all of my friends and family out there. And for my wedding, I had we did announce our wedding, and we had physical announcements, and there was magnets. That's how we told people, oh, we are engaged and we are planning a wedding. Here's the date. This is the save the date, and we still have ours on our fridge, and it's a little story with stick people about how we met and how it all unfolded over our years. Because Jason, I met my wife when I was 5 years old.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I grew up with her. So
you're really slow picking up on that, weren't you?
Well, I asked her out, and she said no. So I stuck with it. Perseverance, guys. Just but I had created for the wedding a newspaper. I actually found some sort of design website, and I created about like 100 newspapers. It was The Wedding Watcher, and it had a story about our engagement, our life together. And then when you open up the inside, there were articles about the place we're getting married, the history behind it, the history behind the place we're having the reception, the information about where we're going for our honeymoon. And on the back was a huge crossword that the game was you had to go around and specifically ask bridesmaids, groomsmen, the answer to the question. No one person had all of the answers. So that and the goal there was to get everybody who didn't necessarily know each other talking and meeting the group. Oh, and there were all bios of all of our bridesmaids and groomsmen too. So I still have one. It's framed up on my wall because, of course, you got to keep one. And I know several other people who just thought this is the coolest thing. And, you're our friends, so I'm going to keep it too.
You know what we didn't...
And I forgot one more thing. Because it was a newspaper, one of Catherine's parents' friends actually dressed up as a newsboy and passed it around.
That's marvelous. You know what? We should have put wedding pictures of all so everybody could see. Well, we're down to, when we get that tasteful logo up there, we're down to the last 5 minutes. So now we have to do something.
Wow, really?
I didn't tell about my reception, but the main thing is that we kept having to pull my brother, who was about 8, out of the liquor, the punch, the fountain, it had bourbon or something in it. I don't know. And
we also had an open bar.
Yes. No, we didn't have an open bar. We had a fountain and a Coke. So again, well under $100. So I figure we probably spent $200. Now we went to New York City. Got to quickly get in the honeymoon, guys, in some way. We went to New York City because my husband was stationed at Aberdeen Proving Ground there, and so we were on our way there. So we honeymooned in New York on Times Square, and it was not bad.
There you go.
Okay.
So, and we still have spent under $300, I'm pretty sure, because plane tickets weren't that expensive, and the government moved him. So, yeah.
That helps.
How about you, Ray?
We went to New Zealand. So we went to the other end of the country, and because it was our summer, it was their winter, and that was just completely fine with us. We went to some of the like the really famous gardens, and they weren't all in bloom yet, but they were still a fabulous place to go. Catherine and I do like colder weather anyway. She can't do the hot, so it was totally fine. But the weather was always beautiful. We didn't get rained out of anything. So it was it was wonderful. And we just went from Auckland, the big city there, one of the big cities, to the Shire, and we had a 3-course dinner inside the Green Dragon Inn. I had a bite of literally everything. We had beer specifically made and only served at this particular location, and yeah, then we came home. It was a wonderful experience. Never forget it. And the next time we talk about this, I should tell you the story about how I was we were split between we're going to go to the coolest bar or we're going to get our spleens removed. that was a great part of it too.
There you
Jason, take us home.
So we spent a lot on the wedding. We didn't spend as much on the honeymoon. We went to Key West. And the reason we went to Key West is because friends of Nancy's parents had a condo there. And so they basically gave it to us for the week. So we saved money by being smart and frugal on our honeymoon. We still had a fantastic time, got a lot of sun, got sunburned. And then kind of somewhat coincidentally, Ray, a year later for our 1-year anniversary, I gave my bride at the time a trip to Australia. So we went to the same neck of the woods a year later to visit. She always wanted to hold a koala. So she got
I thought you sent her. You said you gave it to your bride, and I thought, well, you stayed and she went.
No. It was a vacation. I gave her a trip, but I went too.
Yeah, and I'm just dying to get into after the wedding. We probably won't do that, but I was explaining to Ray that in our day, things were very different than they are now. So nice girls, and I was such a nice girl. Don't know what happened. Nice girls were very, very, very circumspect, and you get uncircumspect later. So we may cover that in a future edition of Generation Gap. And if there's any questions you would like us to answer, we're virtually certain not to be able to do it in any coherent way, but we would try. So you can send us your questions would they send it to the show or to my website?
Your website's the easiest way, probably.
Dorothy at itsnevertoolate.com. Now, you and I know sometimes it is too late, but we're going to take the Dorothy at itsnevertoolate.com. We do this every month. Is this unbelievable? And with my dear friends, Ray Miller Still and Jason Falls. And we'll see you next month.
Oh, hold on. Watch this. Shoot, where'd it go? How do I present?
You got to hit the little present thing in the lower center. I will make you.
He's over. Wow. That's pretty nervy, Jay.
Oh, here it comes.
Oh. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm not speaking to you anymore. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, see you next time.